Yeah. Deformed baby. I was wondering if that was going to come up. I really didn't think about it that much when I found it in the basement. Kind of distracted by the whole burned dead dad thing. How does it fit with the rest of this? How does any of it fit? I should have been talking to Felix months ago. I'm both sorry and relieved he went through what he did. I know that sounds bad, but I'm sorry because no one should have to go through it, and relieved because someone else I know has. Okay, so what did we learn from that? That's the second building with weird hallways and rooms so far. So I wonder if the hospital and school are connected in some way. Are they the same thing? Also, which came first, the creatures or the building? Also, to note, whatever they are smart enough to wipe records from the internet. Great. It makes sense why I've found so little. It's been a lot easier to actually go to the locations. What else? What about the puppets? The doctor? I mean, I don't even know where to begin with the whole miracle baby thing, so... Yeah, great. I healed. So what, right? But I know better than that. Oh, starting another recording already. Okay. Impatient. Fine, what's this one about?
Welcome to Heartland Supernatural. Today's episode, Camp.
Oh, this
camp
one's about
is where
camp.
We find out
Cool.
who
Okay.
we are
Yep.
as kids.
Wait,
Thrust among our
didn't we
peers for a
already
week
do
where
this?
friendships are
I
forged,
can't
some are
remember.
tested, and who we are
Huh.
magnified.
Welcome to the Beating Heartland, created by Denver Baughman. Episode 11, The Summer Camp, Part 2. Welcome to Heartland Supernatural. Today's episode, Camp. Camp is where we find out who we are as kids. Thrust among our peers for a week where friendships are forged, some are tested, and who we are is magnified among the adolescent angst and uncertainty. Camp crushes, rivals, or simply stories that will last the whole school year. For me, camp was a time I was able to spend with some of my closest friends. I always look fondly on that. Sorry, can we hold for a second? I'm fine. Just some memories. Sure, Felix, you can bring me some water. Thanks. No, I really don't want to talk about it. Okay, let's just run it back. We're good. The memory's already fading. Welcome to Heartland Supernatural.
It didn't take long for everything to go back to normal. It was disconcerting. At the beginning of the day, everyone was worried about Timothy and what to do. Then, just a few hours later, they were discussing what time to swim. It was maddening, especially while waiting for Sam's return. I had no way to contact him. We weren't allowed to keep our phones during camp. Something about learning to appreciate nature. Well, they should have thought about that before having a camp with a pool, air-conditioned cabins, and a cafeteria, but I digress. I kept watching. Well, I guess more stalking Jasmine. What was she up to? Would she kidnap campers? If so, what did she do to them? I kept thinking about her conversation with Director Summers. He was practically egging her on to do something big. Something horrible. Why would he do that? Fear crept up from my stomach, threatening to burst out. I did my best to push it down. Sam needed me to be strong right now. He would be fine. He was bull-headed, brash, and determined to a fault, but he was also smart, kind, and the best friend I had. He had to be okay. What scared me most, though, is that he wouldn't stop until he found Timothy. That determination was going to get him in trouble. I felt it. But this time, I didn't want to. The sun began to set. That evening, sitting around the campfire, songs were sung, s'mores eaten, and the fiery light brought warmth and happiness to most. But Sam was still gone. Timothy was still gone. And somehow, Jasmine had slipped away. How did she do that? I'd been watching her like a hawk all day, barely participating in anything. Only enough to not look weird. Well, not weirder than usual. It hadn't been effective, I guess, because at one point, Director Summers walked up to me. He asked, "Where's the friend? What's his name? Samuel? You two are usually always together." Must be exploring. He's hard to pin down sometimes." He just smiled at me. A forced smile. "You should be having fun. Not many days left for you. At camp, I mean." I nodded, and left to do one of the games, watching Jasmine in my periphery. Now, at the bonfire, Director Summers laughed, led songs, and told scary stories. There was a new face at the adults' table. He stood at the end, leaned against a tree, almost disappearing into the forest's shadows, a hat covering half his face. Jasmine wasn't anywhere to be seen. Where had she gone? I must have been distracted for too long while Director Summers told another scary story, the eyes beaming with excitement at the terror on the campers' faces. Something silly about a monster that lurked in the river. Jasmine was gone. I had to find her. But everyone was here. They'd see me try to leave. They'd stop me. So I waited. Finally, we were all dismissed to our bedrooms. I followed, looking for the right time to slip away. I never did. I sat there in my bed an hour later, the rest of the campers falling asleep around me. What was wrong with me? I had to go and stop this. Then it happened. Someone was leaving the cabin. I heard it faintly from bed. Quiet squeaks of wood from the hallway. Not another one. If I couldn't save the rest, I would save one. I got out of bed and quietly left the room. The dark hallway of the cabin stretched out before me. Animals hanging on the wall, watching me with their dead eyes. I saw a figure at the end of the hallway, walking away from me. It was one of the girls. I quietly followed, not wanting to make noise in case any of the counselors heard me. Or worse, Director Summers. I hoped at first that she was just walking to the bathroom and that my worries were for nothing. But she kept walking, to the large wooden doors of the cabin, and out into the cold night. She hadn't even hesitated. Something was luring her in. I stood at the doors for a moment. I had to go stop her, but if I left, There was no turning back. I walked into the night. Tracking her in the night proved to be difficult. Thankfully, the moon was almost full, so it lit up the area enough to navigate. But the girl kept disappearing among the trees. Her pace was quick, as if she knew exactly where she was going. She stepped deftly over roots and wove around bushes. I would lose her for a few minutes, only to see her again, faintly through the brush. I didn't call out to her. I didn't know what else was in the woods, and I couldn't risk something else following me. Even so, I heard something in the bushes behind me, but I refused to acknowledge it. Several minutes passed, and I slowly began gaining on her. I was about to reach her when I tripped over a root. It seemed to come out of nowhere, like the roots had sprung from the ground to grab me. I tumbled, spitting leaves out of my mouth. I tried to stand, but my foot was wedged between the root and the ground. I struggled for a few minutes, and when I finally freed myself, she was out of sight. I wasn't going to catch up this time. I yelled in frustration. I didn't care about being heard. The thing in the bushes shivered. I stared at it, defiant. It was too hidden to see anything. I could only hear the quick, raspy breaths. I thought of the painting in the lodge, of the girl waving goodbye to her father. Beside her, something lurking in the bushes. Why not just get it over with and pounce? It didn't want to attack me. It just wanted to watch me. I stood up and looked away from the bush. I heard it step closer, but I knew if I turned around, it would hide too quickly to see. I was lost. There was no way I'd find my way back to the cabins. I was determined to find the girl, save her from whatever was about to happen. I just began walking in the direction she had been going. I heard it faintly at first. A soft voice called out in the distance. I thought I was imagining it. It was so faint. It wasn't really a conscious decision. My feet just started moving. It had been about a minute before I even realized I was getting closer. That's when I saw it. A soft glow around the body, sunken eyes, graying skin, basically a corpse. It was talking to me, reeling me in. He was so far away, but somehow his soft voice traveled. I couldn't hear the words, but could understand the meaning. Follow me. I did. A part of me was compelled to follow. The other knew that he would lead me to the cabin. At this point, I didn't care if going to the cabin meant death. I just wanted to see Sam again. So I followed. Every time I got closer to the fisherman, he would disappear, reappearing farther away. He stood perfectly still, never moving a muscle except for the mouth whispering the words. This continued for hours, until the morning started to peek through the trees. There it was, the cabin. The fisherman stood at the door. Its hands slowly raised and beckoned. There was a light on inside. I walked to the cabin. Then suddenly, its face grew pained, and a ear-splitting scream escaped the lips. It shivered, body convulsing as it screamed, and then it disappeared in a puff of smoke. It was gone. Not dead. I don't think it's dead. But what had done whatever that was? I heard rustling in the bush behind me. The creature's breath had quickened. It was also afraid. I didn't have time to worry about what that was. I needed to save them. so I looked through the window. Inside, Jasmine was crying. I had expected to see a bunch of dead teenagers on the ground. Not Jasmine alone crying. Her body shook as she sobbed, but she wasn't alone. Director Summers appeared from the floor. He entered from a trap door. "You're pathetic." He shoved her aside. She slammed against the wall, but quickly composed herself, standing up, back against the wall, body shaking. "I've done my part. They'll be happy. I can leave now." "You're missing all the fun down there. You never had the stomach for this." Summers took off gloves. His shirt was stained with blood. He sighed and rubbed his temples. He looked exhausted. Jasmine, still against the wall, whimpered. "But I did it. They're afraid. What more can I do?" "Getting that pathetic creature of a fisherman to lure kids here is not the same as doing something yourself. You want to make us happy?" He handed her the gloves and a knife. "Do the dirty work yourself." She paled. "We were just supposed to scare them." "It's been decided to take the next step. It's about that time." I don't. Summers grabbed her by the arms and shoved her against the wall. "You don't want to. You don't get a say in this. It's been decided for us. Do it." He let go of her, sneered. "I thought we dealt with the black sheep. It looks like we have another. Pity." Hands suddenly gripped my shoulders. I screamed. Summers turned and saw me through the glass. He grinned. A fist hit me on the top of the head. The world went black, and I collapsed. I awoke to candlelight. Bodies sat next to me, and my hands were bound behind my back. My vision was blurry, and so was my mind. I could barely remember what had happened before passing out. Slowly, my mind, like my vision, cleared. And I remembered. I was able to make out Sam's face in the dim candlelight. Timothy sat a little farther away, and so did the girl. I don't remember her name. Someone else also sat bound. I don't think she was part of the camp. Looked too old. She wore hiking gear. My only guess was that she happened upon whatever was happening and was too much of a liability. I saw the trap door and ladder on the other side of the room. I say room. The basement, if you could call it that, was a cave. There were 2 tunnels leading off in opposite directions. The walls were a mix of brown and gray stone. Sam saw I was awake and gave me a reassuring smile. His right eye was swollen shut. Blood dripped from a gash in his forehead. Bruises were already forming around his face and neck, and he still smiled to encourage me. "Well, what did I say?" "Found them." I laughed. "I guess I was right," I said. "This is our last year of camp." Well, we had a good run. Never got to use the fireworks, though." He frowned. "I am sorry, Denver." I shook my head. Don't worry about it. How do we get out?" Sam shrugged. "I don't know. I don't think we can. Do you have anything that can cut the ropes?" "No, Denver, maybe we can break the chair. Denver!" We both went silent. Tears trickled out of his good eye. We both knew how this ended. Then we heard voices. Muffled. I had to strain to hear what was being said. I could just make it out. Jasmine was yelling at Director Summers. "We can't kill him. He's not ready. We can't just let him go. He'll remember too much. He won't for long. It will just take time. Why are you so determined to save that boy? Catching feelings?" "No! I just want to follow the plan.
Follow the plan? You haven't been able to follow the plan since you were born.
There was a scuffling noise, then the noise of someone choking.
Admit it. You don't want to do this anymore, do you?
Jasmine's voice came, strained and gasping.
I'm faithful. Don't lie to me.
I did my part. I brought them here. More fear. Killing them now is a waste.
You don't have the stomach to kill any of them.
Jasmine began weeping as she struggled for breath. Summers laughed, cruel and cold.
You know what? I've had enough of you. They'll forgive me for this. A bad apple. Well, I'll see you in the next life, Jasmine.
No, please! There was a gunshot, and a body crumpled to the floor. Then, slow footsteps approached. Director Summers' twisted, smiling face appeared from the tunnel. New blood splattered on his shirt over the old. He looked almost non-human, his smile void of empathy, eyes crazed. He walked up to me and placed his hand around my throat, but didn't squeeze. He just stared at me, his hand trembling around my neck. I couldn't say anything. My voice was trapped, like a cork was stuck in my throat.
So delicious. The fear.
Sam shouted. Let him go! Take me! I can take it! I tried to shake my head at Sam, to tell him no, but the fear overwhelmed me. Summers laughed the same cold laugh. He turned to Sam, let go of my neck, and walked up to him. He took out a knife and began the work of torturing all of them. The screams were... He slowly took his time with all of them. During the torture, I heard a deep, rasping rumbling from the tunnels. Something was listening, enjoying the noises.
You should all be proud. You serve a greater purpose than you'll ever know.
He turned to stare at me.
Especially you.
He stood up, a gleam in his eyes, raised the gun towards me. His hands shook. My heart raced as my mind looked for answers, anything that could save me. I looked at Sam, who sat hunched from the pain. Tears fell. He was barely conscious. I looked at the other 3 people tied up, bloody and bruised. I never even learned the hiker's name. She looked up, drained of any energy to fight. Summers took a step towards me. Gun pointed at my head. His hand shook terribly, his finger on the trigger. My eyes were glued to the barrel. This was it. I wondered if I would feel the pain. Summers suddenly yelled.
Why can't I?
He turned the gun on the hiker. I closed my eyes as he pulled the trigger. My ears rang. My eyes squeezed shut. And then there were 3 more gunshots. Then silence. I didn't breathe. If I kept my eyes closed, then it wasn't real. I felt an intense heat. It almost burned me. I felt the ropes around my wrists snap, and the heat was gone, and with it, all sound. I slowly opened my eyes. I was alone. It was me, and the blood staining the floor. And I cried. I cried for what felt like an eternity. Sam was gone. He was dead. I heard the gunshot, and heard the bodies slump. Why was I still alive? Why not just kill me? Kill me instead. Numb, I climbed the ladder and was back in the cabin. It was beginning to grow dark. I had no idea how to get back to the campground. I don't even know if I wanted to try. Rummaging around in the cabin, I found Sam's backpack. His DS, the comic book I loaned to him, his fireworks, etc. I sat and stared at the items sprawled out in front of me, trying to remember each one's importance to Sam, lock the memories in place, make sure someone remembered the person he was, warts and all, and not just the sappy, good things they would say at his funeral. My best friend. Almost my only friend. The pain seemed to dissipate. I swore I felt something soothing me from inside, wrapping me in warmth. It was all going to be okay. I grabbed the fireworks and took them outside. I had been able to find matches in one of the drawers. I lit them, slowly letting each firework go off above me every few minutes. I waited. Sure enough, they found me. The cops were interested in the cabin, but the chief said they hadn't found anything, not even blood. The only body they found was Jasmine. They asked me a lot of questions. I don't think they believed most of what I said. I was in shock. Overactive imagination. Summers disappeared. He never returned to the camp. The cops promised they would try and find him, but I could tell they just said that to please me. I never went back to camp. Never wanted to. And I never learned what happened to Summers. I really hope I find him. I want him to feel the pain.
Why, Sam? Just why? I told him not to go, but he never listened to me. I could feel it. He knew I could feel it. But he just had to go and try and save them anyway. You all just had to push it. Just had to make me relive that.
I guess it's about time we had a chat, isn't it?
Really? Now? Now you want to talk to me?
Yes. I'm looking for some clarity. A pleasure to meet you. The name's Philip Kaysen.
The Beating Heartland was written and performed by Denver Baughman. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on whatever streaming platform you are using. Follow us online at The Beating Heartland. Thank you for listening.